So here is basically the camera setup. So it's been a while since I made a camera video, and mostly it's been because I've been actually pretty busy working on a documentary series here. Give a little more context as to what the documentary series is later, but basically it's a sports documentary. Because this was kind of like the full feature documentary series that I worked on all by myself, I didn't have a lot of budget to actually pay for other crew, so I had to be very specific and purposeful, I suppose, with what I was actually going to be using for this video. Let's kind of go over the 5 main things I think I would say that you need for a solo documentary, really. And this mostly pertains to kind of the Nikon ecosystem, but I think this could really pertain to anyone really doing documentary work. So let's try a camera. So the main camera I actually used was actually the Nikon Z9 here. And as you can see, the main point of your camera for the camera setup, if you will, is actually to capture a lot of the information. So you want to mainly focus on A-roll as well as B-roll. So in this case, the A-roll was mostly talking headshots, and then the B-roll was actually the action shots that you put in the background. Having to have something very light and nimble to work around with, especially working with fighters and athletes and grapplers, it's a little difficult to kind of be very mobile, if you will. So hence I had to design and build something out such as this, which is basically 2 handles, no gimbal whatsoever, a monitor, sound, camera, and just one simple lens. In this case, the 24-70, which just happens to be probably the best, I guess, good range camera or good range of zoom that you could get for a Nikon camera. So basically a setup like this right here, where I would be doing my best to keep straight and zooming in. So my B camera was actually the Nikon ZF. The N-RAW is the N-Log is very easy to grade and color match with the N-RAW I actually used for the A cam. So those were kind of like the 2 main cameras, but the primary reason I went with the Z9 for the B camera, especially for a lot of this footage, was actually because of the autofocus system that it has. It's really good for sports and action for video. Hence why the design for this camera setup is a really fairly big monitor that's very easy to carry around, and 2 grips. Because of so much dynamic movement that can happen with this documentary series when I'm recording, it's very difficult to use a gimbal to get those smooth transition shots everywhere. I didn't necessarily want a gimbal, so I basically had this either on the tripod or was carrying around to actually record. And because of the handles, it's actually very easy to keep very smooth panels. So that's the main reason why I went with this camera. Now let's talk about the second thing, which I think is very important for a lot of documentary work, which is sound. In most cases, when I was doing a lot of the A-roll, and I guess you could say B-roll shots, the main mic was this MK400, I believe it is. It's a Sennheiser, right here. It's the Sennheiser MKE 400. So this shotgun mic was basically here just to capture some basic audio. If there was music in the background or the person was talking to get some B-roll, I would essentially just use this to kind of just muffle a lot of that sound and just capture some basic sound or clips I could use for later. But the main, I guess you could say the main audio system I used was actually, for a lot of the interviews, was actually this guy right here. So I've had these tentacle syncs for a while, and if you work with anything with, let's say, time code, or anything with, let's say, needing really high quality audio for, your talent or, the subject that you're recording, having something like, let's say, 32-bit recording makes it so much easier to work with in post, especially using Fairlight, which is individually resolved, to edit the sound. So let's talk about the next most important thing, which is your choices of lenses. So when you're actually interviewing the talent, in most cases, you probably will want to go with a couple things. So in most cases, if it's just static A-roll shots, so I actually kept swapping between 3 main lenses. I kind of swapped between mainly using the 85 as the main interview lens. On my B camera, I actually put the 35 on, and sometimes occasionally I would switch over to this 50. The reason I mainly chose to use, let's say, prime lenses for video work is mainly because when you're just using it to interview the talent, it's actually easier and looks a little bit more pleasing and easier to work with, in my opinion. Or a video of the talent, it helps focus in on the person who's speaking and talking. So it's a little easier and more cinematographically focused for the story to actually have that sort of range. And the reason I chose these is because I wasn't sure what most of the range would be when I'm actually doing the B-roll focus, or actually getting B-roll itself. I actually only stuck to the 24-70. It allows you to create this lens from a crop factor of about 36 to 105. So it actually gives you a lot of range. So you don't actually have to use the big bazooka that is this guy. I didn't necessarily have to be packing this guy right here, which is the 70 to 200 for recording video, because if you actually start adding all this weight on, it becomes pretty significant. So I try to keep it as light as possible because I would be filming every day for about 2 to 3 hours. Let's talk about the next most important thing, which I think some people underestimate, which is lighting. Let's go over the 2 main lights I would normally take with me to actually film this series. For lighting, I thought I'd keep it simple. And for most cases, this little hobo light helped as kind of the, I guess you'd say, hair light, I suppose. But I actually used this portable little system and had this kind of usually give a little highlight, the iris or just the hair of the athlete I was interviewing. So I normally would carry this with a little light stand and would have something like this off to the side to get this nice little hair light, as you can see here. But I also used a bigger light source, which was the main key light. And let me take that out and show you guys. Okay. I just realized this is a little bit too, not the best angle for this. Okay, let's set up a different spot and kind of go over this little setup here, which is this Nanlite portable. The Pavlo Slim comes in this case, and I would use a tripod, not a light stand, to actually set it up. So let's actually beam this light on. And what I like about it is it's binary. So I could actually adjust the color temperature here, right? But I could also adjust the intensity. Oh man, that is bright. As you can see, this thing gets hella bright. But what's nice about it is the portability. Because it comes in a nice case to make so easy to take everywhere, it allows very nice light. And knowing Nanlite, that they're kind of one of the higher end products for lighting, I would say, and a little more affordable, let's say, aperture. Let's turn that off for a second. It's a really nice and powerful light for setup. And I'll kind of showcase some video here of how that actually looks like for me. The last thing to actually talk about is how I actually carry all this stuff with me. I have a color case from Pelican to actually showcase. Let's see, can you see that? It's colorful, ain't it? It's kind of the point. Color Case is actually a Pelican associated brand out here in the Las Vegas area. And the reason these guys are so unique is because they're known as the colorful camera cases, or the colorful cases. So what I like about it is that I bought this one because of the color, but it actually has individual pockets you could use and stuff different pieces of gear. So let me show you some B-roll of how I actually set this whole thing up. And what's really nice about this case is not only is it durable by Pelican, it's very distinguishable from other sort of camera gear, but 2, it actually carries basically all the film gear here that I'm actually using for this. So let me actually pack everything up and show you real quick. As you can see, all the gear basically fits here, apart from the lighting that has its own case really. And both the lights kind of fit on their own. So apart from just the main camera gear that I would take with me, I would also just take the lighting, the Pavlo Slim most cases, on its own, and an extra tripod or 2 with me. Personally, I really like this Pelican case If you're in the Las Vegas area, you could actually head into one of their demo stores, demo the cases themselves. Because they are Pelican affiliated, you get the durability of Pelican themselves, but you also get the cool customer service that comes in with having an in-person store instead of just ordering it online like a lot of people just do. And you could actually pick your custom colors from a wide association that they actually have. The most important thing is that your gear is going to be safe when you're traveling. So that's why I love this case right here. So yeah, that's kind of the summary really of my documentary kind of like tools and set gear list that I carry with me. So again, I hope you find this video helpful. This is kind of been my experience using, various tools for making documentaries, but this is kind of what works for me right now, videos for different clients and stuff. This is kind of the Nikon ecosystem. So again, if there's a Sony ecosystem out there or a Canon, Fuji, what have you, I bet there's amazing things. But again, this is kind of the Nikon focused stuff that I do. So if you're into Nikon gear, film gear reviews, that sort of thing, vlogs and whatnot, make sure you subscribe. There's more videos coming your way. And again, as always, thanks for stopping by. Like and subscribe, and yeah, stay tuned for more information on that documentary series once it's out. I'll let you guys know. Until then, later.